Hey guys, welcome to Spaghetti and Barbells episode 7. So this episode we're going to talk about, do you need it or should you have it? And the 4 topics are, Luca.
Topic number 1 is going to be about protein. Do we need to use protein powder and how many grams of protein we recommend on a daily basis? Topic number 2 is about pre-workout, what we recommend and how to use them. Topic number 3 is about alcohol and its effect on performance and our fitness. And topic number 4 is the power of routines.
Let's do this! Alright guys, so topic number 1 is on protein and protein powders. Should you have protein powders? And if so, how much should you have it? What source of protein powders? And then also on number 2 is, if you're not going to have protein powders, how much protein should you be having from other sources? Personally, what do you reckon, Luca? I personally don't believe in protein powders because I reckon you should be getting it from your actual food. I understand the convenience of having it, and if you're going to have it because you don't have the time in the day to get that much protein, you should be looking for very high quality whey protein isolates, not concentrates. What do you reckon?
Well, I think that having predominantly solid food as a source of protein is a better idea. We know that they tend to be absorbed better and they tend to be more effective for muscle building. So I will suggest to rely predominantly on animal sources if possible.
100%.
So meat, fish, eggs, dairy, and so on. Of course, if we are working with vegan or vegetarian athletes, those are not options. So maybe we need to rely more on tofu, beans, and other form of not animal product. But yeah, I would say that the solid food as a source of protein is a better choice. However, it's not always possible to have that amount of protein from a time perspective and from a convenience perspective. Depends also how many grams of protein. Typically, women don't need as much protein as men.
Yeah.
So they can probably get away with without using protein powder. Depends on the person. With guys, I personally have most of my protein from solid food, and I have around 270 grams per day. So it's a pretty big amount, and so it's doable.
It's doable.
But yes, you need to be prepared, you need to be organized, you need to prepare your food in advance. So it's not the easiest task if you're not a well-organized person. But yes, I do prefer to use solid food as a source of protein.
Another thing, guys, is that most of these, and you've probably seen this too, most of these protein powders that you are getting off the shelves are a mixed blend. So it's isolate and concentrate. The problem is that when you get blended protein powders, there's a lot of crap in them. A lot of fillers, a lot of artificial colorings, flavorings, stuff. Things that are actually bad for your guts. They actually affect your guts. If you can get pure whey isolate and with no fillers and no artificial flavors, colorings and all that, predominantly that's a very good filler in terms of you can't get your protein for the day. And look, I highly recommend if that's what you're going to get the highest quality and the highest grade, because it's just detrimental to your fitness journey anyways, because you're going to start to have bloating issues, cramps, and it's not fun. And then there's obviously long-term effects of what it can do to your digestive tract, which you don't want to be there. You really want to be looking for the cleanest whey isolates. If you are a vegan, like Luca mentioned, then you're just going to look for a cleaner vegan alternative protein powder. A good option is Macro Mike's. They're very good and they taste nice. They're based off peanut butter, so they actually taste really nice. But I am 100% with Luca. If you cannot get your protein source from main foods, like proper food, you're then going to have to just reorganize your daily life to try to do so. Because eating solid foods is a lot better for you than eating protein, like having protein shakes.
I think also what I perceive is people sometimes get lazy and they rely on protein powder because they're not willing to spend time in preparing their own food.
Yeah.
So it could also be a bad habit. I think that if you are, as I said before, organized and you're willing to spend time in preparing your food, it's not going to be as hard. The only thing is, and I had this situation before, if I do have an athlete or if I'm preparing myself and my calories intake is very low, my protein intake is very high, it could be a little bit harder with solid food simply because every source of protein tends to bring some sort of fat. So if my calories intake is extremely low, I need to be very selective with the protein sources. So white meat, white fish, egg whites, I can't use anything that bring up my fat. So that could be an obstacle. But yes, it's still doable if you choose lean source of protein. So it's still something that can be done regardless.
And you're just missing a lot. If you're just replacing your protein in your diet with powders, you are missing essential fats, right? And vitamins and minerals that you're getting from actual animal protein sources, especially beef. So, because of the high fat content, it's obviously better for cognitive function. It helps with memory and all that stuff. So, eating high fats with like a red meat with the fat, please don't. When people chop off the fat, don't chop off the fat. Just eat the fat. It's not going to make you fat. Like honestly, all right. But the thing what Luca and me both agree on is that you should be getting most of your protein source or all of it from actual physical food.
I think a practical application could be also for vegan athletes. So if you have somebody vegan that need to have a medium-high amount of protein daily, there could be more an application for protein powder because it's going to be very hard to get a high amount of protein from beans and rice and so on. So I can say that. But if you're not vegan or vegetarian, it should be very doable, absolutely.
All right, guys. So topic 2 is pre-workouts. Do you need them? And if so, should you take them? Simple answer to this is no, you don't need them. Look, honestly, coming from my experience, I have taken all the pre-workouts you could imagine, including the original Jack 3D when that was around. Do you remember that? Good. That was good. Which we didn't even realise that it actually had a substance of speed in it. Look, personally, I don't think you need them. If you are tired, you should be rest. Like if you're not feeling like wanting to train and you're absolutely dead, that's your body's response showing you that you lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, there's something out of balance, and then you're just putting shit tons of caffeine into your body to then do a session. It's not the most ideal thing to do. You're going to get injured. Something bad's going to happen. And if you do need a bit of caffeine, just go for a black coffee. That's what I do. If I need a bit of caffeine, I'll have a black coffee. I just don't really think you really need pre-workout, and especially if you are a CrossFitter, speaking to the CrossFitters out there, or anyone doing a high-intensity sport, pre-workouts can actually hinder your performance, because what it does is it increases your heart rate, and you're going to get gassed a lot easier through sessions. So I noticed that when I first started CrossFit, and I was taking pre-workout that I was using during powerlifting and bodybuilding, and it was the worst. I would gas out in 2 seconds. My heart rate would be through the roof, and I'd feel like it's not smart. It's not ideal if you're a CrossFit. You don't want to be doing that stuff. I just say black coffee is the best thing to do. Get you a bit alert, get you a bit of a buzz, and that's about it. But yeah, I'd say stay away from them. You don't really need them, and if something's happening and you're not responding properly in terms of your training routine, look at other factors. Don't just look at caffeine. Yeah.
Well, I think pre-workout is a very general thing to say because it's not the name of a supplement. It's a combination of different supplements based on the company that create the pre-workout that we are talking about. So typically it's a combination of stimulants, which could be caffeine, could be green tea, could be guarana and so on. Yeah. But it could also be other type of amino acids such as citrulline, beta-alanine and so on. So it depends on which one we are discussing. I think, as a rule of thumb, supplementation is secondary to how hard you train, your recovery, your sleep, your genetics. So there are a lot of factors that are much more relevant than supplements themselves.
Which we've spoken about in the podcast before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think supplements in general, they do help. Do you need them? You probably don't. And I believe that if you don't train hard enough, or if you don't have a proper amount of protein, for example, through your diet, the supplements are not going to make the training more efficient anyway. Yeah. However, this pre-workout that we are discussing is really dependent on your goal. It depends on the person. I would say, like you mentioned before, caffeine. We know caffeine is something that can increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure, increase our alertness. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be. Let's say that you train very late at night. Having something that increases your alertness is actually not positive, because maybe it makes you work a little bit harder during the session, but it could affect your sleep. Yeah. If your sleep is not optimal, your recovery is not going to be optimal either. So using something with a high amount of stimulants later during the day is probably not ideal. Depends on the person, but more or less everyone is going to be somewhat affected from a high level of caffeine or high level of guarana and so on. Yeah. So they can be used, but the other thing is you don't want to rely on them. So if you feel that you need them, probably there's some sort of underlying issue. Maybe you're training too much. Maybe your diet is not as it should be. Maybe your sleep is not optimal as it should be. So you don't want to hide some other issue with the pre-workout. So that's something that I would probably recommend to address before using any pre-workout in general. Other problem is the more often you use stimulants, the more you desensitize yourself to the stimulant.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you drink coffee every day, the more often you use it, the less you feel it.
Yeah.
So using something that is stimulant based is probably something that it can be used potentially, but using it every day make it less and less efficient. It would make more sense to use it if, for whatever reason, you're not in a good in a good state.
Yeah.
Let's say that you didn't manage to sleep very well the day before for whatever reason. There could be some practical application for caffeine or for stimulants, but at the same time, you don't want to rely on them. You don't want to be dependent on them.
Correct.
So it's very subjective. It depends on the person. Depends on the sport as well. Certain supplements make more sense to certain athletes and don't make any sense for others. For example, if I'm a full marathon runner, maybe caffeine doesn't make much of a difference because it's more something that help you to increase force production and alertness. If you run for 4 hours, you don't need to be as alert. You need to do the same thing over and over again. So it's very different. At the same time, if I use beta-alanine, which is a lactic acid buffer, is not going to be much. It's not going to be very efficient for a powerlifter.
No.
We know that during powerlifting, the time under tension is so short because you do one repetition that you don't accumulate much lactic acid.
No.
So beta-alanine makes sense maybe for bodybuilders, for crossfitters, maybe.
Yeah.
For powerlifters, there is not much of an application because it doesn't help in improving performance. So depends on the sport, depends on individual. I would say I wouldn't rely on them. They could be used strategically depending on the phase.
Yeah.
It depends on the athlete. It depends on even like placebo effect. If you perceive that using this particular supplement makes you stronger, maybe you're going to be more confident and perform better. That could be something else that could be taken into account.
Another thing is what Luca was saying is the more you take it, the more you need.
Caffeine, yes.
Yeah. You actually hit a wall because what you do is you actually drain your adrenal glands.
Potentially.
And then what you need to do is do an adrenal reset. And I've seen this happen firsthand. I've seen it happen to certain people where they're taking 500 milligram pre-workouts and it's doing nothing. They aren't feeling anything. And that's a bit aggressive.
Yeah.
And then what that means is their adrenal glands are completely shot. And then they have to do a complete reset. And it's really hard at that point because at that point, if you don't take anything at all, you absolutely feel like crap before a session. So you don't want to get to that point like Luca was saying. You want to use it strategically. Look, if you're a bodybuilder, I understand why you'd like the pre-workout for the pump and for the feel. Especially in powerlifting too, because like Luca was saying, it could be a motivational thing. It could just give you that extra placebo effect that you feel like you're stronger, so you're going to lift heavier. But personally, I would just say, if you're not feeling up to a training session, you got to look at other factors. It's not because you need caffeine. It's probably sleep, nutrition, and stress.
Could be overtraining as well.
Or overtraining, yeah, but for the message, overtraining too. So, looking at those factors before even thinking or contemplating of taking a pre-workout is what you should be doing. Like I'm saying, is if you're going to have anything, have a black coffee. It's going to give you it's going to give you a bit of a stimulus at the start of the session. It's going to give you that hit that you want, that motivation. And then throughout the session, you'll be motivated because you're training, right? And so, yeah, my clear answer to this is just don't take pre-workout. What's your advice to the guys?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I wouldn't rely on them. I wouldn't say it's the foundation on my strategy. My foundation would be more make sure to work on your diet, work on your training, work on your overall lifestyle. Could be used. I personally don't use them, by the way. I actually drink just coffee. So I just not really got into them, not as heavily. They can be used. I feel that the amount of difference that they will make is not substantial. No. So can be used, it's not wrong, but don't expect to see an incredible result just from pre-workout. It could help you a little bit in certain situations, yes. Okay, topic 3 is going to be about alcohol. So can we have it without affecting our gains or our performance?
Yeah, so pretty much do you need it or should you have it? I don't think you should have alcohol altogether. Personally, I think it's there is no positive side effects for alcohol. Alcohol is a poison. It goes into your body processes it as poison, and it affects a lot of things. I don't want to just go in depth about this because there's plenty of podcasts that go on about it. But just basically, it's a poison. So when your body's processing it, it's not worried about anything else besides getting that out of your body. When you get drunk, it's just detrimental to your recovery and obviously to your performance throughout the week of training. And I just don't see a... Look, I understand social events, you want to have a glass here and there, and yes, it's not the worst thing in the world, because balance is key. 100% agree on that. Like, if you just want to have a glass here and there, just to be social, go ahead. But personally, I try to steer completely away from alcohol, because there is no benefit besides feeling tipsy and a bit happy, and that's it. Because all the other side effects are just detrimental. 1, to your health, to your mental state, 2, and then 3 is to your training. What do you think, Luca?
Well, it's definitely not optimal. So
It's not.
I can't imagine anyone recommending alcohol for optimal performance.
Nah.
So we know that is not something that we suggest to have. In terms of the negative is alcohol bring empty calories, meaning that it doesn't provide any nutritional values in terms of vitamins or minerals. So there is not really any added benefit by using it. It provides energy without, as we say, like this nutritional value. So 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories. We know that 1 gram of protein and carbs is 4, 1 gram of fat is 9. So we have energy coming in without any additional nutritional values. It could affect sleep quality. We know that as much as it feels like we fall asleep better because it can relax us, it does have an impact on the quality of sleep. It could create dehydration, which in a funny way is actually positive in bodybuilding, meaning that I occasionally use it with some athletes the day before a show just to kick in dehydration and to make them look leaner, but it's not there's no benefit in terms of performance. There's a benefit in terms of look. So it's quite possible that if you have a big night out, you wake up the day after and you feel that you are leaner and with more vasodilatation, more veins popping out, but it's just due to the fact that alcohol is a dehydrator plus increased vasodilatation. So from a bodybuilding perspective, it can be used, it doesn't have to, and not everyone agree with that, but there is some practical application the day before a show. But from a performance perspective, from any other normal situation, obviously it's not going to be beneficial being dehydrated or don't have the best sleep. With the general population, which some of the people that you probably work with and I definitely work with, if they don't drink, it's better, clearly. However, let's say that we have one client that dropped from 15 drinks per week to 5 drinks per week. I wouldn't say it's optimal, but there is a
better
benefit.
than nothing, yeah.
So we are not necessarily looking for perfection, we are looking for improvements over time.
Yeah.
Depends on the goal of the athlete or the client of the athletes. If I have somebody that need to be stage ready within the next 10 weeks, they need to be much more strict than if I have somebody that just want to be a little bit leaner for summer. So you could get away with more things by not looking for an extreme kind of physique. But I'm not saying it's optimal. I'm saying that if that's something that you find pleasant and you want to incorporate your lifestyle, you could, but if you reduce the amount or if you completely eliminate it, it would be better.
It does as well neurologically affect you badly. So alcohol does have side effects to you neurologically, and then it also does have side effects to your internals in terms of your gut health. It actually really screws with your gut health. It's like drinking pure gas. It burns everything through there. So it's not good. And the thing is, like Luca was saying, it's wasted calories. So talking on a purely trying to lose weight, because that's what probably most of the people watching our podcast are going to be thinking about is, well, how does this affect me with losing weight? Well, the fact of the matter is that an average wine, for example, is about 120, 140 calories.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Vodka, for example, a ginger beer, right? Ginger beer is 140 calories. And to be specific, Brookvale, right? So if you're having, let's say, 5 of those, that's a meal.
More than a meal.
More than a meal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you don't realize this, and this is what I'm getting at, guys. Is that I get a lot of clients who come in and they love a drink, right? And like Luca was saying, if you can just move them from 15 to 5, you're winning, right? The problem is that if you're drinking on a daily basis, lots and lots and lots and lots of alcohol, by the end of the week, you've accumulated maybe 3 days worth of food in just alcohol. Like, not even food. And the problem is that's how weight gain just skyrockets. And not to mention all the other bad side effects that it does to your body. So, to purely make it easy and simple, I personally would say stay away from alcohol. I would say don't even have it. But if you're that adamant to have it, I'll do exactly what Luca would say and just reduce it and just have a healthy balance then.
And be also aware of the food choices around it. So it's very uncommon to have drinks and chicken and broccoli. Like typically,
It's not gonna happen.
if we have alcohol, there are very high chance that there's going to be some chips or some cheese or something that is very calories dense. So also be aware of what sort of food we have around our drinking session could make a difference. So that's something else that can be mentioned.
Yeah.
Topic number 4 is the power of routine. When we talk about routine, we could refer to different variables, such as waking up time, bedtime, training time, and so on. Now, if we are looking for optimal, being really boring and being really specific with your timing is going to make your progress much faster.
Correct.
Meaning that if I always wake up at 6 in the morning and I always go to sleep at 9 p.m. in the evening, my body adjusts to this particular type of routine. Meaning that every morning at 6 a.m. I will feel with a higher level of energy, and every night at 9 p.m. I will feel that it's time to go to sleep. So it's going to be easier to have better quality sleep. It's going to be easier to have higher energy levels during the day. Meal timing as well. If I always have my breakfast at 6 a.m. and I always have my lunch at 1 p.m. or whatever it is, we actually teach ourselves to start to get ready to eat at those particular times. And the interesting thing is our body releases a hormone called ghrelin at a specific time based on when we eat. Meaning that if we always have our lunch at 1 p.m., at 1 p.m. we actually feel hungry, regardless of how much food we had at 12 p.m.
Correct.
So if you notice, you could have your food at, let's say that you normally have dinner at 8 p.m. and you have something to eat at 7:30, you will still feel hungry at 8 for whatever reason. So it's just the fact that this hormone called ghrelin make you feel hungry regardless of how much food you ate before the meal that we are discussing. So in terms of optimizing digestion, being consistent with your meal timing is going to be a very good idea, training wise as well. If we always train in the morning, we find ourselves we have more energy in the morning. If we always train in the evening, we find ourselves with higher level of energy in the evening. Yeah. So it's not uncommon to have athletes or clients that don't want to train first thing in the morning, for example. It could be a habit. If you force yourself to train every morning at 6 a.m., whatever it is, you will find that it's not that hard after a while. So it's just about sucking up for the first few days or few weeks, and eventually it's going to be easier and easier. I personally tend to train in the morning just because that's the time that I have a little bit more time available. So my training is typically around 8 a.m. I feel that my energy levels are quite good at 8. The very few times that I have to postpone to 2 p.m., I feel that I have a crash at 2 p.m.
But plus, men are better off training in the morning because that's when our testosterone is the highest.
Yeah, from a hormonal...
for a hormone perspective, especially for guys out there, if you want the optimal test levels, train in the morning. Don't train in the afternoon. It's not where your test is the highest. The highest is in the early morning. So I personally would say I recommend training early morning. And Luke is right. Routine's key, guys. Like you can't, you cannot have a plan or a goal without a good routine. So creating a routine, I say, well, my clients is you create a calendar. So a calendar, I train in the morning, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and then at the end of the day is your rest, and that's where you have downtime and all that. By having a calendar, you then obviously are going to stick to it, right? You're going to have something to be accountable to. And it'll just make routine a lot easier. And like Lucas said, routine is boring. It is boring, right? So you got to admit this. Like a lot of my clients go, but I don't like eating the same thing every day. It's boring. I want to change it up. So what I try to say is Monday to Friday, keep it boring. Keep it the same. So you know what you're eating, you know what you're doing, and then on the weekends, enjoy yourself. Don't blow it out of proportion, but enjoy yourselves. Be a bit random. You know what I mean? But Monday to Friday, keep it boring. The more boring it is, the more same it is, the better you're going to get, and the faster, like Luca was saying, you'll get to your results.
But also in terms of, like, if I'm looking for the best result as possible, the more things I change, the more likely I am to do something that is not ideal. Yeah. Meaning that if one night for dinner I have chicken, the other night I have quesadillas and so on. So if I keep changing what I'm eating, a lot of variables keep changing. So it's hard to pinpoint where are things going wrong. But if I eat the same thing every day, even if it's wrong, it's easy to figure out what is wrong because everything is the same.
Because you can be like, I'm eating too much of this,
Correct.
So I need to change this. Where, like Luke was saying, if you, one night you have chicken, the next night you have pasta,
whatever it is,
the next night you have pizza, and you don't know where you're eating more food and why you're getting like fatter, or you don't know why you're not putting on weight because you're not eating enough. Like, routine creates that idea that you're like, okay, I know where I am now. I know what's happening. And then you can pinpoint, like Luca was saying, where you're making mistakes.
Yeah, it's easier to see where the limiting factor is.
So I hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on another episode of Spaghetti and Barbells.
See you soon.